Hi everyone, David Aragona here with Mike Beer, taking a look at race 10 at Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday. It is the Grade 3 Florida Oaks. This one for the 3-year-old fillies going the mile and a 16th distance on the turf course, the race right before that Derby prep, the Tampa Bay Derby. And Mike, we've got a field of 12 runners signed on for this race, and it's a pretty competitive field. You've got plenty of horses in here that seem like they have upside coming into the stakes event, but I do think that they've got the right morning line favorite in the number 9 Nitrogen, who showed her quality, finishing third in the Breeders' Cup last year and did nothing wrong in her 3-year-old debut in January.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, maybe Nitrogen's just the right horse in here, David. This is a really fun race to handicap. There's some real talent in here, very lightly raced fillies who seems like you're going to get more than one of these fillies to step up and be pretty competitive in stakes races down the line.
Yeah, it's one of those races where you go through and you start to look at some of the horses that are big prices on the line. Even a couple of the 30-1 shots don't look impossible in here. So
Yeah.
definitely an intriguing one to handicap. And we'll get to all of the runners in this race. Before we do so, though, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. And interesting to see Nitrogen shown on the front end here, or at least vying for the lead, Mike, because that is not the running style that she's used in her last couple of starts. And I guess this pace projection is being influenced by the Natalma, where she was involved in an honest pace, but she has really changed around her running style recently. I'd imagine the 6 Lush Lips is the one most likely to find herself in front here, though I will say it's not like she's had to go that fast to get to the front in her last couple of efforts.
Yeah, I did. I thought the pace of this race I thought was pretty tough to decipher. Maybe it will ultimately just be the 6 Lush Lips because she is fast and she could easily make the lead in here. I didn't see Nitrogen being part of this. The 12 on the outside, who did just wire a field and looked pretty good doing it at Gulfstream Park. I guess with the outside post, maybe Rosario, maybe he's just on a send here.
Yeah, I think in large fields like this, sometimes you get a fast pace just by default, but it doesn't seem like there are that many horses in this race that really want to be blazing on the front end. Let's go through this group from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Smart Union. And Mike, can't fault what she's done on the turf too much. She's won 3 races on the surface, which is more than most of the field can claim, including a couple of first level allowance races in her last couple of starts. I think able to compete in a couple of those races for the same condition because of the lower purses at Tampa Bay Downs. I can't say that I love the fields that she's been beating, but she does seem like she's been superior to those horses.
Yeah, I feel the same way about her. I mean, this is a pretty significant class test for her. It seems like I have liked what I've seen from her, particularly in the 2 most recent wins. Just thought that she looked, not only did she win them comfortably, even that last one more comfortably than it looks. Just I like the way that she did it. She's been, I really like the way she finishes in her races, David. She's got a great post here with tactical speed. I don't think it matters if they go fast or slow in this race. I think she's getting a good trip in here and she's going to be a price. I could use this horse somewhere.
The number 2 is Briant, one of a couple in here going out for the Chad Brown barn, and she's likely to be the bigger price of those runners. She broke her maiden in her first start in the Chad Brown barn, first start in the United States last time. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Mike, I thought this was a pretty impressive effort. We're picking this up at the quarter pole, but she commenced her rally all the way back at the half mile pole, made this big wide run to get into contention at the top of the stretch, and just sails away from this field in the late stages. Doesn't look like she's the biggest filly, not a whole lot of size to her, but she can really run and has a big finish on her. Just a big step up in class for her as well.
Yeah, saw all the same things you did, and I just add that she did all that after basically hesitating at the start and missing it by about a length or two. I mean, she really ran in there. We'll see. I guess we'll find out a lot more about her here, David. I don't know if you're going to get the 10-1 on her. Maybe you will because there are so many different options in here. At any kind of a big price, she's another horse I'll try to use somewhere.
The number 3 is Delarray, another horse who had a big, impressive victory on the turf at Tampa Bay Downs. That came 2 back when she beat a first-level allowance field by over 8 lengths. And anytime you put up that kind of margin on the turf, you are utterly dominant over your competition. They tried the dirt last time in the Suncoast, and she is pretty versatile with regard to surface. She's run well in the synthetic as well, and she ran just fine on the dirt course last time. No match for La Cara, obviously, but I think that performance might just signifies that she's still in good form coming into this race.
Yeah, I agree. You know that she can do just about anything. She can get any kind of a trip in a race too. So I kind of like that about her. You know, when you start going back, that turf race was visually impressive. When you start going back and looking at the field she was in against, you start to get a pretty good idea of why she won, maybe by as many lengths as she did. It didn't seem like there was that much quality behind her, but I still like all of her races, David. I don't know if she's going to be able to beat this field, but I'll admit I took a long look at her in here. I think she's interesting getting back to the grass.
Mike, I think a common theme in this race is that we can make some kind of case for almost everybody in this field. I would say 11 of the 12 runners. The
Yeah.
number four, Miss Rummikub, is probably the one that it's tough to build any kind of logical case for. She's just really slow coming into this race and was easily handled by one of today's rivals pretty lavish last time.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to spend a lot of time talking about her. I think she's in too tough.
Number five, Love You Anyway, is another big price in the morning line, but this one has some ability. We saw that on debut at Gulfstream Park, where she did not get an easy trip by any means. She was caught wide around both turns, never looked like she was in a particularly comfortable position. And most horses that get that kind of trip just throw up the white flag at the top of the stretch, but not the case with Love You Anyway. She kept trying all the way to the finish line despite losing all that ground. She really showed talent in that spot, Mike. They're just asking an awful lot of her to now try graded stakes company as a maiden in the second start of her career.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'm not going to really add anything to it. She didn't get an easy trip. She ran really well. I mean, maybe it's just a great sign, David. I hate that they're running her in this race. I wish they would sort of take it a little bit easier with her and give her another race or two to develop, but she's clearly got talent.
Like, I'm wondering what you did with the number six, Lush Lips, because she has been visually impressive in her last couple of starts, particularly that synthetic race where she just got to a stalking position and mowed over the leader at the top of the stretch and sailed clear to a 7-length score. And last time didn't have to work too hard to get to the front end, but she again was dominant over this field, winning comfortably in the end. I think she might have a different trip coming to her this day. I will note they're taking the blinkers off for whatever that's worth, but she's been impressive in these last couple of starts.
Yeah, she really has. She won this race super easily too, David. I mean, she did have an easy trip on the lead. They just sort of went 1-2 around the track, but it's like the way that she sort of got away from those horses at the top of the stretch, and she basically did it on her own too. I think she's talented. I think this is going to be way harder for her against a bunch of better horses, and she's 4-1 on the morning line. I mean, I just wouldn't take any kind of a short price on her, but if she drifts off that, I guess I would take a second look.
The number seven is that other Chad Brown runner in the race, Opulent Restraint, and she probably is the main one for this barn with Flavie and Pratt riding. She's won her last two in a row. We'll take a look at her victory in the Chelsea Flower last time, where she stepped up off a maiden win and was able to get this victory in a hard-fought effort over Rare Art, who makes a run at her late. Mike, watching this filly's races as a 2-year-old, I feel like there was always more there that she's not giving. And she gets to the lead at the 8th pole in each of her last two starts. And you feel like she's going to pull away and win those races by 2 lengths. And it ends up getting really close on the wire, particularly here, where it felt like she kind of shortened stride a little bit at the end. So I don't love to see that. And while I do think that there is potential for her to do better, I don't know how short a price I want to take on that prospect going out for the connections that she is.
I'm going to agree with the price take on it, Dave. I don't think I would be willing to take a short price on her. We'll see how they bet the race. I do think the talent is there, as much talent as anybody in this, because I had the sort of same take that you did on her as a tutor. To me, more than anything else, she just didn't look like a horse who was completely there for Chad, and like she wasn't given her particular. I remember being at Saratoga for her debut, and she just didn't even look like a fit horse that day either. She looked like she would need a race, and then that's how she ran. She got better progressively. I think there's a chance that she really gets better now as an older horse too. It's been almost 5 months since we've seen her. So, we'll see how much growing up she's done. If she's grown up and moved forward, I think she'll be a handful in here.
The number 8, Smudge, is one of 2 in a row going out for the same connections, DJ Stable and Mark Casse. This one is going to be a much bigger price of the two. But Mike, watching this horse's last couple of races, I would make the case that she's better than those results indicate, because she did not get easy trips either time, particularly in that turf race where she was wide around both turns, pushed extremely wide on the far turn where Joe Bravo was trying to make that move into contention that he likes to do at Gulfstream, and she just got completely hung out in no man's land in that race and actually finished well to be 4th. And then last time, again, an early wide move in that synthetic race. She has not run a fast race yet, but I feel like she's better than her PPs indicate.
I feel the same way about her, particularly when you talk about the turf race 2 starts back. I mean, I don't know. To me, that's a race where it looked like she was in line to finish 7th or 8th in that field. I don't know how she was still hanging around in the stretch there with the trip that she pulled. That's an underrated performance. The synthetic race, I think she ran well both times, and those races are really hard for me to evaluate. But she certainly ran well in both of them. The turf race makes her very interested in here at a big price.
The number 9 is Nitrogen, the likely favorite going out for those same connections. And I know she just broke her maiden last time in the Ginger Brew, Mike, but it's hardly the first time that she had run well in stakes company. And we'll show the replay of that most recent start where, I mean, she had excuses not to win this race. She got a little shuffled back coming to the quarter pole, was held up in traffic. A lot of horses in the short stretch at Gulfstream would not be able to overcome any loss of momentum, but she's able to find an extra gear coming on between horses late. And you really have to like the way that this filly has run through the wire in her last couple of starts, especially the Breeders' Cup 2 back, where Jose Ortiz kind of rode her like a 50 to 1 shot where he was just hoping to maybe get lucky and pick up a piece. But I think if he had maybe had a plan to ride her with a little more urgency, she could have been right there on the line with Lake Victoria because she was absolutely flying across the wire, seemingly with more to give at the end.
100% agree with your take on the Breeders' Cup, but you go back and watch it, it's kind of crazy the way that she finished there once she finally got clear. And you're right, you don't want to be too hard on Jose for that one because she was 50 to 1 and he was just trying to get a piece of it. And ultimately, maybe he was unlucky. That race that we just watched, the Ginger Brew, I don't know. To me, I watched that race like 3 times. I thought all I could think of was he was trying to get her beat. I don't know what Jose Ortiz was doing in there. And he almost did get her beat, but she was too good for those horses. She's really improved, David, and she's just very clearly the horse to beat here.
The number 10 is Pretty Lavish, who has done nothing wrong in her career, despite her 2 starts coming months apart and continent whole sea apart, coming over from Ireland to compete in the United States for New Connections Grand Motion in her last start. Mike, I like both of her races. She, came through traffic to win her debut, and then last time out, we'll take a look at the stretch run. She has to go wide into the stretch, unleashes this big finish to close this field down. You can see it in the replay that we're taking a look at here. She's stepping up against tougher and has to run faster, but she's done nothing wrong so far.
Yeah, some of this, same things we could say about her as about the other. She's talented. She's looked good winning both of her races. She's up in class here, so we'll find out a little bit more about her. I like that win. Her debut win over in Ireland did it like a little bit of a different way for a closer to sort of stayed towards the rail, had to come through between horses. And then once she saw daylight, she really finished. She really liked the way she goes at the end of her races. That's for sure.
The number 11 Celtic Motif is another maiden coming into this race, and she's actually exiting the same Gulfstream maiden race as Love You Anyway, who we just talked about, the horse who got a very tough trip on her debut. It was the 5th career start for Celtic Motif, but her first in North America after she had run well in Ireland a few times, actually disqualified twice for, I think, lugging out in races over there. She ran a much straighter course at Gulfstream last time, and I thought got a better trip than the horse we talked about, Love You Anyway. Still had to go a little bit wide, bumped at the top of the stretch. She's got some potential, but both of these horses are just stepping up into a much tougher spot.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I would, if she's the one that I would take out of that last race, although she certainly ran fine there. You mentioned she sort of bumped at the top of the stretch, and then she still, you can see why she was disqualified even in that last race. David still looked green in the stretch, wanted to lug in instead of running in a straight line. It seems like there's some talent there, but she's got to put everything together.
And then on the outside is the number 12, Mia Vana, who tried the turf sprinting 2 back and just got a little bit outrun, but she really responded well to the stretch out and distance last time, able to make better use of her early speed. And she got to the front end. And Mike, when they asked her at the top of the stretch, she just found another gear and kicked away from that field very impressively. I guess that performance puts her in the mix here, but she could have a tougher trip coming from this post.
Yeah, if she didn't have post 12, I'd probably have her somewhere in my picks. Realizing that she's going to have to back up that most recent start, but I thought she looked really good winning that race. And maybe it's a good sign that they started out trying to make her a dirt horse, David, because her pedigree is all grass. So I feel like they just thought that she was going to be, talented on either surface. That didn't work out. She's on the right surface now.
Let's throw up our picks for the Grade 3 Florida Oaks. And Mike, I feel like I'm copping out a little bit here because this is such an interesting race, one where you can make cases for large prices, but I just kept coming back to the idea that Nitrogen might just be better than these horses. She's been so impressive in her last couple of starts. I've watched some of her workouts for this race. She's been, in my eye, outworking a male horse that's going to be one of the choices in the Columbia earlier this day. Just feels like a horse that might be a cut above in it from an ability standpoint at this stage of the game, but probably not going to get that much of a price on her. For me, I'm looking to get prices underneath in the number 2 Brilliant and the number 8 Smudge, the other Cassie horse, but I know you're going in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, only slightly though. I'm with you, and I don't have anything to add to your Nitrogen take. I think she's the horse to beat. I'll just see if I can maybe get one of these horses to jump up and run with her late. I'm going to see if Chad's got Opulent Restraint ready to go here off the layup, and maybe she'll be a little more focused now, David. We'll see. I wouldn't take the 3-1 morning line on her. If she drifts a little bit, I could bet her to win. And I also just tried to get some prices underneath.
7129 for Mike and 9285 for me in the Grade 3 Florida Oaks, race 10 at Tampa Bay Downs Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.